Ladies and gentlemen, the moment we have all been waiting for here on VIPinternetradio.com. Please help me welcome the host of the all-new and exclusive Boxing Cornerstone, the man they refer to as Blackstone, the man that moves in like a storm and hits like lightning, the man I call the Light because he's pure electricity. Please enjoy Steve the Light Moss. Steve, are you there?
I am. Don Zinno,
Folks, Don Zinno, Don Emilio Zinno, CEO of VIP Internet Radio. I am so proud to have this man with us on his maiden show. The man is pure energy. What can I say? Moss, welcome to our show.
Thank you so much, Don. It's a pleasure to be here.
Thank you. Thank you. The pleasure is
Let me
ours.
ask you a question. You know, because I know boxing is not your thing. You own a lot of stuff. Like you own the radio network. But write this down. I want you to see if you can get me a fight with Gary Shaw. Gary Shaw is a promoter, and he represents a few people. He represents Chad Dawson. I think that Gary Shaw, a fight with Gary Shaw and myself, I could be legendary.
Wow. But I'm
gonna call out. I still look good. I can still dance. I'm gonna call out the boxing promoters. You know, that's who I want to fight. I think if a person is a boxing promoter, they should look at least as good as the athletes that they represent. I hope Gary Shaw hears this. They should look at least as good as the athletes they represent.
Absolutely.
That's what I have to say.
Tell.
If you're listening, guy, holler at my boy.
Tell me, Steve Moss, would you kindly tell our folks from this moment onwards who our friend will be on this year's show and what he does for a living and why you've decided to have him as your right-hand person?
Well, first I had to make him an offer that he couldn't refuse. He's not going to admit that I gave him a large sum of money. He's going to say he just did it because he loves me, we're friends. So, actually, I didn't really give him a lot of money. I'm just joking.
Mm-hmm.
The person I'm talking about is Carl Handy. I met Carl recently. Carl is a professional athlete. He's a professional boxer. He also trains both amateur and professional athletes. In street lingo or in a dialogue that we use in the States, the word would be hungry. He's hungry. He still has something to prove. He has unfinished business. He is a stand-up guy in the class act. I don't want to say what side of the boxing game he's on in Quebec because there's really, in Quebec, two sides. There's Interbox and there's Groupe Yvon Michel. They collaborate together like anybody else with good sense on big fights. Carl came to Quebec under different but similar situations of stress. His stress was Hurricane Katrina. My stress was 9/11. So obviously we didn't come at the same time, but we both came due to unpredictable events. Carl can explain the Hurricane Katrina situation. I actually had a flight to come, and I was scheduled to come on September 14th, and because of 9/11, I really couldn't get a flight out. So I drove to Montreal. So Carl and I are from the U.S. Carl has met some of the same people that I've met. Our philosophy is boxing is great, but it could use a change, you know, kind of like a yes we can situation that Barack Obama was in. I mean, nobody really expected Barack Obama, a guy named, kind of skinny guy, as he says, named Barack Hussein Obama out of Chicago, to end up being the first time out the president of the United States of America. So it's time for a change. We like to be on the cutting edge or the wave of that change. And when you do anything, you want to put a good team together, kind of like the X-Men or or the Matrix or G.I. Joe. And then with this team, you go through a sort of a boot camp of your own. And hopefully in the process of getting to point A, you don't lose any members of the team. I like Carl. We're both kind of big guys. We're heavyweights. And I think that that we're on to something, and we're going to try to see if we can turn that something into a reality. So I want to introduce a colleague of mine and a dear friend, Carl Cojack Handy. Carl, where you at, my brother?
I'm here. How you doing? How everybody doing worldwide?
Carl, nice to meet you, Carl. I know we've spoken a few times off air. We're happy to have you on board. And I just want to make one thing clear. I'm a heavyweight too, but I can't fight for Dixie.
You can't fight for Dixie?
Yeah, I run fast when I'm scared.
Well, I mean, that's good to be scared sometimes. I mean, I think fear is one of your best friends. It keeps you sharp.
I just want to interject something. Carl.
Yes.
Carl, we've seen enough Italian movies to know that, you know, like, I don't know who named it, but if your name is Don Emilio Zinno, I never heard of a kid running down the street, you know, away from a situation and with a name like Don Emilio Zinno. So I think he may be trying to get us into something where he's going to pretend he can't fight, and then we put a fight to something together. He knocked the guy out in the first round. The money goes, you know, strange counteract.
Set him up. Set up.
Set up. He's Italian.
My friends, as they say in Hollywood,
we're going to give them an offer they can't refuse.
I told you.
Give him an offer he can't refuse.
Go ahead, gentlemen. Please continue. I'm enjoying every minute.
Well, okay. I guess what I like, Carl, to say from a very practical point of view, Carl and I were actually in the gym this weekend. I was his guest, and of course, in a couple of days or so, you'll be able to see what took place as well as hear what took place. And of course, if the fans don't know, the listeners don't know yet, this is about to become a television journalistic piece. So Carl not only has fought, but he's trained boxers. I want to ask him. Because I don't know, Don, if it's too early to talk about this because we're expecting Howard in the second segment. Maybe we can get started a little bit. The idea of old school methods of training versus all of this high tech stuff, and the possibility of, I mean, if I was Floyd Mayweather, if I would call out somebody like Pacquiao, I would say, if we're going to push it to the limit, why don't we fight 15 rounds instead of 12? And why did they cut out the whole concept of a world heavyweight championship not being 15 rounds? I mean, everybody fought 15 back in the day. I saw some research. The research said, well, you know, it could be because of a tragic situation when Ray Boom Boom Mancini actually killed, I don't want to say he killed him, but Duke Ko Kim died in the ring during the lightweight challenge. So, or was it the fact that you couldn't fit 15 rounds plus the other fights into a television schedule? I was just asking Carl, because Carl is dealing with this conditioning situation every day. What does it take to go 15 rounds? And could we bring it back?
Actually, I think the people that made the decision, the federations, the organizations, the sanctioning bodies, they did that because of the health and safety for the boxers. Like the other day when we were at the gym, I was telling you, I said that, you know, like even today with all the new high technology that they have, and in the old days, when you had real men, didn't have a third of a quarter of the things that people have now. These men went 15 rounds all the time. And nowadays, guys struggling to make 10 rounds with all these super pills and super drinks and special this and special that, and they still having problems. So actually, I think is everybody's trying to make money with something new.
Okay,
Nothing's gonna work but hard work.
Okay, so you're saying that now, Don, this is interesting. I think what he's saying is that, and I want to talk about that for a quick second. He's saying that for the safety of the boxers, the amount of time spent in the ring has been cut down because the athletes are not as well prepared as they used to be. So Zinno, what do you think?
You wanted the truth?
Truth, brother.
Yeah, from a media guy. I think the extra minutes are used up in promotion and advertising in conjunction with the boxing federation. A lot of things have changed, and because what Carl said about the pills and the drinks and the this and the that, and with all due respect to the sponsorships, and so on and so forth. I think a lot has to do with that as well. Yeah, a lot of it has to do with the boxing welfare of the boxers. I mean, after all, we're not animals. You know what I'm saying? But folks, as you hear this bell, we're going to take our first break here on the Boxing Cornerstone with the heavyweights of Steve the Light Moss and Carl Handy, professional boxer and trainer. And when we come back, of course, we're going to continue on this great conversation on how and why certain things have taken place in the boxing world in the last 30 years. Please stay tuned. Round two here on the Boxing Cornerstone with our host, Steve the Light Moss, and his right-hand man, Carl Handy. Welcome back, guys.
Thank you. Thank you, though.
Thanks.
So we last left off that we were talking about how the certain transformation in terms of rounds, why we went from 15 rounds, the heydays. Boy, I remember, 40 years ago, I was just a kid. Boy, was boxing the highlight of the week. I mean, people would be talking about it day in and day out, when Muhammad Ali was fighting someone else. And of course, Don King, the what I call the godfather of the boxing world, let's call it as it is. And those were heydays. And some of us didn't have it in color yet, and was black and white. And, that boxing commanded respect. I find that boxing nowadays doesn't command the same type of respect. So, I don't know, guys, take it from there, because after all, you're the experts.
Well, let me say this. I mean, Don may be mad with you if you start talking about how he started promoting boxing when there was black and white TV. I mean, I'm just joking. But Don is not really that. He hasn't really been in the sport that long. The thing that I wanted to say in support of what you're saying is that like if you take somebody, and we all know about the racial barrier, so for us that are African American, we cheered for our guy most of the time. Maybe we had some confusion with that with Rocky Marciano, because Rocky Marciano is Italian. But the idea was that the boxer didn't represent himself usually. The boxer, or those great athletes, those athletes that we remember, whether they wanted to or not,
they represented the people.
Absolutely, absolutely. Or an era of something, whether they wanted to or not, we attached themselves to them. We attached ourselves to Joe Louis. Well, Joe Louis was a different situation. He had a whole country that attached themselves to him because it was 1938 and Hitler was coming to power, the United States against Germany. So the issues were international issues. Ali, when he became a Muslim, was an international issue, not so much because of Ali, but because of Malcolm X and then his affiliation with the Nation of Islam. So most athletes were that we I don't want to use the word worshipped, but that we attached ourselves to were on a mission. They had nice cars and nice things, but they were on a mission. So sometimes this was the first opportunity for them to travel around the world and for somebody to see us. So when they saw Sugar Ray Robinson, they saw Harlem, they saw New York. When they saw Joe Louis, they saw a struggle. Now, when you see a boxer today, maybe with the European, like Carl Froch. When Carl Froch fought Lucien Boutte, everybody in it was like a neighborhood fight of a guy from someplace else, and the entire neighborhood was around him, not because he had a nice house or a nice car, but that was his neighborhood. Boxing now is so intertwined with materialism that there doesn't seem to be any real cause that the boxer is bringing with him, and when he wins, the cause is advanced. You know what I'm trying to say? Now I'm gonna go away from boxing for a minute and come back to boxing. If you look at the impact that Usain Bolt has on the world of sports, he's bigger than track and field. He represents an ideal that affects all human beings, and the fact that he's from Jamaica gives us more insight into what the track and field situation is like in Jamaica. I mean, I didn't know that they had a high school competition where 50,000 people show up. Huh?
The champions.
Champions. Where 50,000 people show up. I mean, we don't see that so much on U.S. TV. Now, with the internet, it's a little different, but you don't see that broadcast on TV. So what I'm saying is that boxing has lost its social mobility for those who are associated with the athlete. Unless Carl thinks it's different. I mean, Carl is in the ring. He sees this. He's boxed in Quebec. He's boxed in Dubai. He's boxed all over the world. And I would assume, are you recognized as a member of your race, or you just going as Carl Handy human?
I am recognized as Carl Cojack Handy myself.
Okay.
I kind of I'm known representing myself. I don't stand in between the racial barriers and stuff. I don't get involved in that. Because it's a very delicate situation, and I try to leave that alone because I don't want to offend no one being pro this or anti that. I just treat everyone like I would like to be treated myself, and I look at everyone like that too. I look at everyone as individuals, because I don't care what color you are, what culture you come from. I don't care how much money you have. You can't be more human than me. You can't be no more human than the next person. So we're all humans, and that's the way I look at it.
Carl Handy, let me interject. Amen to that.
Thanks a lot.
Let me. I ain't trying to start nothing because we all family. But what I'm saying is that Carl is a little younger, and Carl didn't have to be in a certain position where, regardless of his ideology, he was not going to this awards dinner in his honor to get a trophy because you couldn't get into place. You follow me? I mean, that's what happened to Ali when he came home. He couldn't get into a place to meet with one of his supporters. So he was so frustrated that he threw his gold medal
in the river.
So sometimes what you believe and what you can do are two separate things. You follow me? So I'm going back to a situation where I think people see Usain Bolt more than just Usain Bolt. They see Usain Bolt as a Jamaican. You know what I mean? And Jamaica is much different than Dubai. So by being the fastest man in the world, he goes to Dubai. He certainly brings something back to Jamaica from Dubai. But I'm quite sure in seeing his documentary, he even brings something to the table from the rural aspects of Jamaica versus the city aspect of Jamaica, and he says that that's what makes him special. Now it may have been a detriment. I know he had an opportunity to go to school in Europe. He would have probably graduated from university by now, but his parents didn't feel that if he was young, if he was going to spend that much time outside of Jamaica, that he would miss out on some more raising they had to do for him. Now, here's what I'm saying. When John Pascal fights, obviously the Haitians fight with him. When Lucien Boutet fights, the Romanians fight with him. And since they are Canadian, the Quebecois have adopted them as a member of their family, differently than if they were from Ontario. You follow what I'm saying, Zinno?
Most certainly. I was born and raised here.
Yeah. That's a difference. And as a result of the French dominating boxing in Quebec, there's some room for other ethnicities, and I think those other ethnicities want to have more of a presence. For instance, you have two boxers here that are great athletes, undefeated, that are from Colombia. Now, the better they do, the more Colombians you're going to see at the fight, for sure. That's just natural. It doesn't mean that there's an opposition, but it's natural. So, I don't know. I don't know if it's necessary to be in a position like a great athlete and not necessarily or try to avoid attaching yourself to a cause. Are you capable of maintaining your privacy, or do you belong to the people? I mean, does an athlete have the right to himself after a certain level of accomplishment? That's my question. Does Michael Phelps, can Michael Phelps just do what he wants to do without it being associated with Michael Phelps being an American? That's my question.
I think with some of those, with those people who are signed and they have those sponsors and stuff, you have these clauses where they can't do this, they can't do that. They're kind of like they're in this straitjacket sometimes, because the people that sponsor them, that's financing them, they're not allowed to do that for some reason. And I don't know.
Here's what I said to Zinno earlier today. I watched this documentary last night on Usain Bolt, and Usain Bolt has an agent, and his agent has been with him for a considerable amount of time, and his agent is really responsible for money coming to the table. It was an interesting segment in the piece where somebody asked the agent how much money he got paid for this, how much money Hussein got paid for this appearance. They really didn't want to discuss it. Now, the issue was who determines whether or not he makes this appearance, the sponsors, himself, or the coach.
Or him, yeah.
He said the coach. He said the coach determines it.
Gentlemen, we're going to take our second break here on the VIP.
No problem. Is Howard coming on with us now?
Yeah, we're gonna be getting a hold of Howard Grant, the retired boxer and professional trainer, here on the Boxing Cornerstone with our heavyweight host, Mr. Steve the Light Moss, and his right-hand man, Carl Handy, the professional boxer and trainer, and of course, Howard Grant, retired boxer and professional trainer. This is Don Emilio Zinno asking you all to patiently grab that second drink here on the Boxing Cornerstone